Hi everybody, it is Bill Cameron with the Edge of Eternity. Tonight we're going to trim this radiator shield out. We laid it out in the last video that I did on this project, and tonight I want to get it cut out, maybe cleaned up a little bit as far as the edges go, and see how it goes. So, got a few pairs of snips here. Got my yellow ones, they're straight. Got the green that are used normally for right turning, and got those, and my red are for the left. Now, a couple of things. This is an aluminum part, okay? It's, I believe it's 18 gauge, it's quite thin. And I've got the line laid out on here that we went over last time. One thing, whether you're working with steel or aluminum, but what I've found particularly with aluminum is you don't want any sharp corners. Like in this transition, I come around a radius and then I have a 90-degree line going up to the final trim line. That inside radius, or that corner, I want to make sure it is a radius, not a sharp corner, because this stuff can crack so easy, and you get under a hood or somewhere like that where there's a lot of vibration going on from the road or from the engine. It's easy to develop a crack, and then you have a little bit of a mess. So we're going to be careful about that tonight. So I'll quit talking and start snipping. These are the snips my wife got me this whole set this year for Father's Day. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start up this side, and I'm going to kind of cut across that first radius there, okay, so that I don't create a sharp corner. And I'm just going to follow along my trim line here. Now, I don't know if any of you guys do this, but I do this a lot. I will use my snips in the inverted position, and it allows you to push the material down away from you instead of it curling up towards you. And I just find that it helps me to have a little bit less deformation in the metal along the trim line, because your snips will do that, right? They'll leave little pinches and, you know, waves and such. I like to run them in the inverted position as much as possible. It's not always possible, but I can also see my line better using this method. So we come later along here and just follow the line. And you know, we like to use our power tools and things a lot, as much as we can, but using sheet metal snips, if you have a good pair, you can really get a nice line without having to do a lot of grinding or cleanup afterwards. You just follow that line, and you know, be careful with the material so you're not you know, putting too much stress on it. And you know, here, coming here, I'm just gonna relieve this. This time I'm gonna flip it over, and for a straight line, come in here, and I want to clean this off. So there's a piece of aluminum scrap. Throw that in the scrap barrel. Okay, let's keep going here. So this past weekend, we had the Raise the Roof event in Youngstown, Ohio, for Lewis Lee, the gentleman who owns the bus and also has the YouTube show called Planned in Traffic. Make sure you check it out in there, and also on Mr. Longshots' YouTube channel. You will be able to see a lot of the participants and the processes we used, what we did in order to raise this roof 18 inches on that bus. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of guys working together, just having a good time and accomplishing something at the same time. It's a really good feeling when that happens. I was grateful to be a part of it, and we hope to do more of this in the future, and hopefully not the too distant future. A lot of good friendships were developed, and a lot of work got done, and I'm hoping that Lewis is really happy we were happy to be working with them, and it was a great time. Now, like I mentioned, we did the work at Mr. Longshots Garage in Youngstown, Ohio, and he has got a fantastic setup. I mean, his shop is large, really, really good lighting. Not that we had to use the lifts, but I think he had 4 lifts maybe in the one main building. He has another lift in the, it's a connected building. It's still part of the same building, but it's got a much higher ceiling. And that was where we did a lot of the fabricating. That's where I worked. Joey Collins from Mill Creek Fab Shop worked there a lot. Also, we were building some of the window frames and things like that. So we were doing a lot of welding and grinding all day, you know, every day. And we stayed over there for the most part. And then the major part of the team was actually working on the bus, doing the, I'll call it the deconstruction, right? Dripping down the ceiling, inside ceiling structure that was still remaining in the walls on the inside in the old insulation. And then prepping for the cut line where we were going to separate the top of the bus from the bottom of the bus, and then lift it 18 inches, and all of the tooling that we used in order to tie it all together and then lift it up. Really, it was a great time. So make sure you look online for Plan in Traffic or Raise the Roof. Search it out on YouTube and watch some of it. You'll see a lot of work getting done, and everybody contributed. It was a lot of work, but man, it was worth every second we put into it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, I feel, you know, really blessed to have been a part of that project. And like I said, also, we're planning on doing more. So it's really something, you know, sometimes you go and you may start a new job somewhere and you don't really know anybody, and you know, you're the new kid on the block, so to speak, and you have to learn your way around the business and learn who's who and all that. And since we were all YouTubers and familiar with each other, it was like we showed up and we knew each other. We knew our personalities and all that, and working together was no problem. Really had a great time. And we got to meet some new people. Paul Lyons was there, and Paul has done metal fabricating for many, many years, basically his whole life. And he was there. We got to meet him, and had a really nice time getting to know him and seeing his skills and what he can do, and it was just great. I really, really liked it. We also had a couple of celebrities call in for a YouTube Live, which I think some of you probably saw and experienced with us, and that was really cool. Enjoyed that, and got to talk with Stacy David and Kevin Tetz, and a couple of people that are pretty well known in the car business, and working on projects just like, you know, you and I work on, and I just thought it was terrific. Okay, I am going to get a set of electric shears out just to trim this off so I have less resistance here on this line. I will be right back. Put this little piece off. I'm going to be wasting a little bit here, you know, probably 1 3/4 inches of material, but it's not like I use a lot of material all the time, so could have been a little more careful about that, I suppose. Now this flange that I'm working with right now along this edge here, this will be a roll flange. It'll roll under. Not sure if I'm going to put wire in it or not. take a piece of TIG wire or something like that, something maybe a little bit smaller than that, and you put it right along the brake line, and then you roll the flange over that, and it makes for a really nice looking edge. So this will need very little cleanup, filing, or anything using the snips. I'll have to go around it with a sheet metal hammer and just kind of flatten the surface out a bit, but that's no big deal. I think the last thing I'm going to do, I'm thinking about this now, I'm thinking out loud while I'm talking to you. I've been thinking about the bow tie emblem that's going to go right in the middle of this surface. Should I do that first or should I do that last? Before I start forming all the flanges and such. Let me know what you think. The emblem is going to be, you know, yay big, probably 5 inches long and, you know, 2.5 inches tall. It's only going to be about 1/8 of an inch deep. But I don't want to create a lot of distortion in the panel either. Either way, it's going to create some distortion that'll have to be taken care of. Really like using snips. It's not that I have to be so worried about having a perfectly straight cut here, because it is going to be folded under, but at the same time it's going to save me a pretty significant amount of time just with having to grind material. Okay. I think I'll come on this side. Here's my green snips. Again, I'm going to watch the corners so I don't create a sharp corner. I can just come back. This is really light gauge aluminum, and I can file these corners in. So I'm kind of coming to an inside corner here, and I'm just gonna stay away. Let the file do the work in there. I will cut across here, stay away from the final trim line, then I can save this piece of material. I've got a few other pieces over here that are probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, and hey, they might come in handy for something. If not, that's what I have my scrap bin for. To see if this had the gauge on it. I want to say it was 18 gauge when I bought it, but that's been a while. Okay, this is also going to be a flange that will get rolled on this end. Okay, now let's see here. Come in and finish this corner up. You know, while I was in Youngstown at Mr. Longshots this weekend, I mentioned Joey and I work together a lot. And as you all know, Joey from Mill Creek Fab Shop has one arm. And I've always been, you know, impressed by what he can do, but then to work with him and actually see him in action, really impressive. It's really impressive. I recommend going over to his shop and working with him from time to time, and it's just why I learned some new tricks. We had a great time. You know, also Lewis Lee from Playing in Traffic. What a gentleman. Be sure to check out his channel. I'm not here tonight to advertise for everybody I worked with, but you know, it's just that when you meet people like this and the quality and the caliber that they are, you want people to know about them. And that's why I'm telling you about these people. Really super. Mr. Longshot, you know, his channel, check it out. Most of you probably already do watch him. But if you haven't, please check him out, okay? If you don't, I'm just going to start preaching tonight, and then you'll be sorry. Nope, got one more little corner up here to clean up. This time I'll use them right side up. I think I mentioned when we did the layout on this piece a week or so ago that Danny over at DG Retro Customs had given a tip on rolling these edges, and I'm sure I'll be using his technique when I get to that point. I think what I'm going to do is to get the first bend, the 90-degree bend, I'm going to hammer it along the edge of my steel layout table here to get a nice break, a nice starting break, and then I'll use that tool of his to roll the rest of the flange around. A little bit of hammering, a little bit of rolling with that tool, should be in good shape. All right, let's see here. I've got a set of files that we're going to use next, just to clean up these corners. Hopefully without folding the metal over because it's so thin. Here, this radius. Another thing I'll do from time to time is not by a lot, maybe by a 32nd or so, I will undercut the corner. It'll still be on a flat surface, but it might be inside of where I'm going to bend, and it just allows the flange to bend a little bit cleaner and not create any of those sharp points that can create a problem for you down the road with cracks. Stuff is really thin. Just take those edges off. Pretty good. Last time when I was working on this, I showed you, or I talked to you about the whirligig. Actually, I think I did have it out here. And asked you what you guys called it, a deburring tool or a whirligig or any other names. And I think everybody said they just call it a deburring tool. So, I'm good with that. I'll probably still call it a whirligig though, because I've been doing that for my whole life. Good. I'm not going to roll this raw edge from this corner around to here. I'm just going to leave that as a just the parent material. I'm not going to work it or roll it over or anything, but I will put something over it. A little piece of maybe aluminum trim that'll snap over the edge, or a black rubber trim of some type, just so people don't get cut on it. The other thing I'm thinking is, since I'm going to be putting a stiffening bead around the perimeter, at least most of the perimeter of the part, I think I'll form these 90-degree flanges first, and then put in the stiffening bead, and then I can flip it over on its back without, you know, worrying about damaging the bead at all. If I put the bead in now and then hammer formed it, then I might damage the bead, flatten it out and such, because the bead is going to be really close to where this brake line is. So I'll form that in the bead roller, and then I'll come back, hammer the sides down, or I'm sorry, bring it back, and then I can roll the flange over the rest of the way. When we got there on Thursday night and saw the bus and everything, wanted to get it into the shop. Shop was plenty big to get the bus in, but backing it in the position we wanted it didn't work out. So Tyler said, "Hey, let's do this. We'll move a car or two around," and we ended up pulling the bus straight in with right between one of the lifts. So just lift the lift up as high as it would go. And the bus cleared the door opening, you know, by plenty when we pulled in. But when it's time to pull out, it's going to be pretty tight. We measured, and I think we had an extra half-inch clearance or something like that. So when it comes out of the shop, you might have to let some air out of the tires. It was fun listening to everybody's ideas on what to do, and you know, we got a problem. What are we going to do about it? And sure enough, somebody would always come up with a good answer, and everything worked out. All right, let me see. Yeah, it's all pretty good. I think I'm just going to kind of go down the line here. I'll do it on the edge of the table. I don't know if you can see the aluminum shavings, but it comes off really easy. Really easy. I've worked with aluminum a lot during my career, and the last big project I did with aluminum was the Ford F-150. As you know, that body is all aluminum. Now they're starting to incorporate some steel. Probably the main reason is because the aluminum is hard to get, and now with the economy and the supply chain and, you know, the availability and more people using aluminum and all that, it's getting tougher to get. So some of the panels, particularly some of the structural panels, they are switching back to steel. So it's not going to be an exclusively aluminum vehicle anymore. It will be a mixed material type assembly. And I think that's where the car industry is going to go. It's going to be more mixed materials. You know, we were almost all steel for 100 years, I don't know, a long time, 80 years. Then we started making some of the closure panels like doors, hoods, roofs, deck lids, things like that out of aluminum. And then Ford decided, hey, let's make an aluminum truck, which is all aluminum. And now it's kind of, we've learned that maybe all aluminum was a great experiment. We learned a lot, but maybe it's not the way to go. So I don't think there'll ever be, at least in the near future, or the foreseeable future, a completely aluminum body again. There's other parts, you know, certain parts that just make sense to be steel. As long as you can protect from the corrosion between the two dissimilar materials, you're all set. You know, things like hood hinges, you know, they're aluminum, but it makes a lot of sense to use steel. Even a lot of the, I'll call them nut plates, they were aluminum formed nuts, okay? And so they went all the way to the extent of using aluminum nuts on the body. And they're not your typical nut, they're actually quite a bit stronger, but still they're aluminum and they're very expensive to make. Someday maybe I'll show you what they look like and how they're made. It's a pretty ingenious process, and it's also a pretty expensive process, but it's pretty neat. However, you know, with some of the mechanical joining techniques that we're using, like clinching and self-pierce riveting, that type of thing, you can really save money by going with the steel, like a cage nut or something. I'm sure you've seen it many times in your times working with automobiles and motorcycles and such. I just today quoted some work for Subframes. I won't mention the car, but it's made in Europe, and they're really wanting to use aluminum for their subframes on a unibody vehicle. So the front and rear subframes are going to be 6000 series aluminum, and it should be interesting. Now the Corvette, for example, and the Cadillac, like the CT, the CT and the different performance versions of the Cadillacs, their understructure is almost completely aluminum cast or aluminum assembled. It's amazing. It's beautiful too. I'm hoping that in the long term that it all holds up really well. Still too early to tell, but I mean, they do all of the engineering, you know, finite element analysis, look to see where the weak points are, the hot spots, and I'm sure they're predicting it pretty well. I was talking with Heidi from Minnesota Outlaw Customs about the cars, and you know, we were talking about the cars like from the 60s and earlier, you know, like even the pre-war type stuff, and you know, cars had such unique qualities, at that time, and you know, they didn't all look the same. They didn't all, you know, you can identify them. And now, you know, Heidi was saying this, they all look the same, like an SUV is an SUV. I said, yes, because they're all designed in the same wind tunnel. You know, in the 50s and 60s, we didn't care about wind tunnels and aerodynamics. We liked a classy, good-looking automobile. And, you know, not that we don't have classy, good-looking automobiles today, but the uniqueness has seemingly slipped away in the look of the vehicles, and they've become so similar from, you know, automaker to automaker. Of course, the design engineers and whatnot go from a design house that does a Chevy product, and then a Ford product, and then a Cadillac, and then, you know, a Ram, or, you know, a Stellantis part in vehicles. So it's not really a surprise, I guess, that they look the same, and they all use, you know, computer-aided design and engineering, and you know, the shapes and things that you can design with those systems. There's certain shapes that are easier to develop than others, and so those easier ones oftentimes are the ones that end up getting designed into your vehicle, good or bad. Doesn't, you know, it's the way it is. And of course, I believe in the CAD stuff. I mean, I've been using three-dimensional CAD since the early 80s. I think 82 was when I started in it, and I don't do it for a living anymore, but I use it in my work, and I always like to try to get the customer's design data, their CAD data, right? Their computer-aided design data. And then I can fit my product that I'm trying to sell them into their design. And one thing I've found through the years is if you can show them your product solving their problem in their product, you've got a really good shot at being successful with that customer. And so I still use it to this day. But I don't use it as much on my hot rods as I just use it for work. Another topic, I don't know if everybody heard it, I think everybody heard it. The Iron Horse guys were talking about Kelsie Marie. Who has a YouTube channel. It's Kelsie Marie. Look it up. You know, and if you've got kids, like I've got granddaughters and grandsons, but the girls really like to draw, and Kelsie is a artist, and she teaches you. She says, hey, this is how I do this and that, and she's drawing as she's teaching and talking and whatnot, and it's a really nice channel. You don't have to worry about the kids hearing something that you don't want them to hear, right? I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. And she's just a delightful woman, and I think that our kids can learn some valuable things from people like her, and they'll be better people for it. So will we. Because we're going to be old someday, and we need those better people to take care of us. So check out Kelsie Marie, please. Joey Collins, I think, also subscribes to her channel, because I heard him, he was telling me this weekend what some of her videos and things he's seen and her do, and it's pretty impressive. She really enjoys graffiti, and when I was in Germany, Germany is graffiti from border to border. I mean, there's so much graffiti in Germany, it amazes me. And so I took a lot of pictures of graffiti, you know, along the highways and such, and buildings, and sent it to her. And just for her to see what some of the graffiti is like, if it's different or it's similar to what she's used to here in the States. But just a nice, delightful young woman, like I mentioned. Pretty satisfied with that. I think I'll take a little bit. I'm going to undercut this radius just a tad. And when I break it over, it will it'll work easier, and I won't have much trouble with any splitting or anything like that. I love TIG welding, but I really don't want to TIG weld on this. Pretty thin material, and will probably be quite a challenge for me. Go along here just a bit. So we didn't really use any power tools on this, cutting out this blank. I did use the shears, the electric shears, to get rid of the excess material. But as far as what work we're doing on this part, I've done it all with manual tools. Remember the layout video from a couple weeks ago? Just manual tools, laid it out with dividers and a scribe and scales and such like that. Started out with my cardboard dated design template that's over on my toolbox right now, and used that, and just kind of did it the way we had to do it for so many years. You know, now you can water jet or plasma cut or laser cut, you know, metal, different types of metals and whatnot, and it's all automated, and you write a program and zip, it's done, and you can cut 15 of them out in about 15 minutes, and they all look exactly the same. So in production senses and things like that, it's good. In my garage, it's okay. I like cardboard, but I'm getting ready to start a T-bucket project, and that I am designing in CAD on my CAD system that I have here, and I'll make drawings, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a scaled down drawing, put it on my video projector through my computer, and project the full scale size drawing image onto the wall of my garage over there, and I'm going to trace the full scale size drawing on the white drywall in my garage. So I'll always have that for reference to run over and grab and measure points and things like that. All right. I think I'm going to clean this up for the most part, and then we'll throw it on the car and just see how it looks. Okay, here's the top of the radiator, the front of the engine compartment. I'm going to come around here just to kind of show you what everything looks like. Come back around. Okay, I'll grab the part we just cut out. Now that we've got it trimmed fairly close, see this bolt where my finger is down here? That will be an attachment point right there, right in the center of this radius, okay? And then down here, the same thing, right in the center of this radius will be the other attachment point. You can see that bolt right there. That will be right here. This, so the panel will be like this, in this orientation. I'm going to write top on here so I don't bend the flange the wrong way. And bolted here and here. I'm going to, the next thing I'll probably do is knock this flange, this little flange, and this flange 90 degrees. And then I'm going to put a 1/8 inch bead in the down position. So the bead will be into the surface. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to run it all the way around. I'd even like to run it here if I can, but I want to make sure I'm not going to interfere with the radiator itself. And what I plan on doing besides mounting it here is having a couple of rubber spacers along here that will rest right on top of the radiator and the radiator support. And doing that will keep it from vibrating a lot. And so I'll get the height and everything adjusted properly, and then I'll make some spacers under the attachment points so we don't have like a sudden bend or anything like that. So anyways, hey guys, that's it with no flanges. We're on the way. Next episode, maybe we'll put some flanges on it and start rolling a bead. Take care. I had mentioned to you that I was going to mark top on this when we were over by the car. And I also took and laid out my flange lines. Now, I started with this bottom straight line because we know that's dead straight. It came off the coil that way from the aluminum mill. And so that was kind of my datum edge, I'll call it. I came 90 degrees off of this trim line to lay out this brake line. And notice I'm putting the direction the flange goes from this surface. So I wrote down on all those. And then this line, I drew parallel to this line. It was exactly 6 1/4 inches across. So I struck that line 6 1/4 inches parallel to this line, not parallel to where I cut with the tin snips. So anyways, that's just the last portion. Next comes the hammer.